Good morning. I'd like to call to order the October 14th Board of Supervisors meeting. Roll call, please.
Supervisor Carroll.
Here.
Supervisor Elias.
Presente.
Supervisor Miller. Here. Supervisor Bellanese.
Present.
Chair Bronson.
Here.
Let the record show all members are present.
Please rise for the invocation to be offered by Father Ron Hookham of St. Cyril of Alexander Roman Catholic Church, and then the pledge of allegiance followed by Supervisor Bellanese.
Good morning, all. Blessed are you, Lord God of mercy, who through the centuries have given us marvelous examples of charity through civic leaders and the great commandment of love for one another. Send down your blessings upon these, your servants, who devote themselves to their roles as leaders within our community. May your vision for humanity inspire them in their decision-making, and may they know of your care for them as they serve you in their neighbor. We make this prayer through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Please join me in the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Chair.
Supervisor Elias.
Moment of personal privilege, if I could.
We'll have to ask, let's see, who we have? Martha. We'll have to ask Martha if she'll let you have a moment. She's our dog.
I know, Martha, can you wait a minute, please? I'm sorry. I just wanted to take a moment to mention Deborah Baron and his passing here in the Pima community, and a great guy who worked very hard to take care of the poor and work with young people and help them get their lives going in the right direction. And he spent his entire career doing that, a true friend of Pima County and all of us.
Thank you, Supervisor Elias. And now we're going to move on to pause for pause, and we're going to meet Martha and Officer Gordon.
Good morning, this is Martha. Martha is a very relaxed dog. She's slow to excite. She's a little bit older. They have her listed as 2 years old, but I suspect she's a little bit older than that, maybe closer to 4 or 5. She's very, very docile though. It seems to be well trained. We have a young feller in the audience that is always here and always has a warm reception for the dogs. And he sat on command for him, or she sat on command for him. She's very, very relaxed though. She's not easily excited. I'm sure there's probably something in the world that might get her up and jumping around, but she's very laid back. So if you're looking for a low-key dog, she might be a good choice for you. She's been with us since September, so because she's been with us over a couple weeks, her adoption fee is waived, so there's no charge for her, just a $15 licensing fee. That will include that she will be altered, she'll be spayed, microchipped, and vaccinated for rabies and a few other choice dog illnesses. She's very, very, like I said, she's very sweet. She also seems to be housebroken, which is a huge plus for people who are not prepared to go through that training. When I got her this morning from her kennel, her little tiny bedroom at Pack, she had a perfectly clean kennel, and she waited until we got outside, found just the right spot, and took care of her business. So she seems to be well trained. She was brought in as a stray, but it's most likely she was somebody's pet, and they, for whatever reason, never came to claim her. But she's very well trained and a sweet dog. So if you're looking for somebody a little bit more low key, she does look very traditional. One of the supervisors pointed out she looks a bit like Petey from the Little Rascals. So with that nice little round spot on her eye. But she, like so many dogs, is waiting for adoption. So if you've got an inkling to bring an animal in your home, please consider a shelter pet. We have some fantastic shelters here and down in Green Valley as well. Many animals that are desperately looking for a new family to call their own forever. And if you've got the room in your house, please consider a shelter pet over any other pet out there. These ones have been waiting a little bit longer. So I appreciate your time and appreciate all that you all do for us every week. It's fantastic. Last week's dog got adopted. Seems to be the luck of the supervisors, so I'm guessing that she will probably move out of there relatively quickly now that she's had him over here. Yes, ma'am, you have a question? Did you have a question, ma'am?
But you were saying you wanted to adopt them, that was what you were saying,
Go
no?
ahead and wave your hand, that's fine. We'll hold it for you, ma'am.
We got a family of dogs waiting for you.
We'll hold them all, we'll be open at noon. Thank you so much. Come on, Martha. Nothing for today, sir?
You know, I was just gonna say that she seemed like a really nice dog, and then I started trying to sit on your lap. She kind of dwarfed you a little bit there,
She-
Officer Brown. That's what I was thinking.
It's the big ones that always seem to think that they're lap dogs. The little ones just crawl right on up, and the little ones, you can't, they won't sit still.
But that's a nice sign. It shows that she's very
Yes, she's
affectionate.
very gentle.
Yeah, and probably be really good for one of these folks sitting out here in the audience, Father Ron. But I wouldn't do that to St. Cyril's unless they really cared. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Officer.
Madam Chair,
Supervisor Carroll.
since one of my children graduated from St. Cyril's, we crossed the gamut. We were at St. Joseph's, St. Cyril's, and St. Michael's. But I'd love to pay the freight on whatever cost is associated in honor of Father Ron saying our blessing this morning.
All right, we'll move then on to item 5, a presentation proclamation. What's the pleasure of the board?
Madam Chair,
Supervisor
move
Lees.
the item.
Motion and a second to approve. Do I hear objections? Hearing none, motion carries. Supervisor Lees, will you move the presentation?
All right, no laughing, come on. You need to hold it in front of this, Daisy, come on over here. Okay. Here we are, 1 year later again, recognizing National Latino AIDS Awareness Day and the important work that goes on throughout the world surrounding this issue, and particularly in our community. And I appreciate all the folks who have been working so hard. We have a big dinner tomorrow night at the El Casino Ballroom, and of course the public is invited to attend the event. Should be a lot of fun. We got some great speakers. And Tucson Meet Yourself was filled with lots of good events this week as well surrounding the issue of HIV and AIDS. So without any further ado, I'm going to go ahead and read this proclamation, and then I'd ask you guys to make a comment or two if you'd like. Whereas Pima County will join more than 1,000 institutions and 350 government entities across the United States, Puerto Rico, and the U.S. Virgin Islands to celebrate the accumulation of Hispanic Heritage Month by observing the 11th Annual National Latino AIDS Awareness Day. And whereas the National Latino AIDS Awareness Day is a strategic effort to raise the visibility of the HIV/AIDS crisis within the Latino community and to help promote and sponsor prevention activities, including counseling and testing. Whereas HIV/AIDS continues to impact the lives of people of all ages and working in Pima County. Whereas our event in Pima County is sponsored by a coalition of local agencies, including the Southern Arizona AIDS Foundation, Pima County Board of Supervisors, Cope Community Services, Pima County Health Department, Tucson Interfaith HIV/AIDS Network, and the Pima Community College West Campus. Now therefore be it resolved that the Pima County Board of Supervisors hereby proclaims Wednesday, October 15, 2014 to be National Latino AIDS Awareness Day and encourages all Pima County residents to get involved in the fight to end the spread of HIV/AIDS and to improve the lives of those living with it. Passed and adopted this 14th day of October 2014.
Hi, I'm Veronica Soto. I'm the Director of Community Development at Cope Community Services. This actual event has been very important to me. I've been doing this event for the last 9 years. I know I don't look that old. But I do want to say that this year our theme is Moments That Matter, and the idea behind the fact of being around long enough to celebrate those moments that matter, such as births, graduations, wedding events, those kind of things in families and in the Mexican culture, that being very important to us. We were really lucky this year. We went down to Pima Community College for our annual resource fair and tested 19 students there, which is more than we have ever tested there in the past. And this weekend at the Tucson Meet Yourself Safe Southern Arizona AIDS Foundation tested over 100 people. So this was a big year for us to get people out and tested, and hopefully that moments that matter really do make a difference for us. So thank you.
Now we'll move on to item 6. This is a presentation of a proclamation for the Merge Center Against Domestic Abuse, proclaiming Friday, October 17th to be Wear Purple Day. What's the pleasure of the board? Motion and a second to approve. Objections? Hearing none. Motion carries. Supervisor Elias.
We have some of our good friends from Emerge, our partners in this business. Come on over here. Come on the other side.
Oh.
That way we have some semblance of balance. Okay. Relationship violence, domestic violence, an important issue for all of us, and certainly in the last month. With the specter of professional athletes becoming more and more under the spotlight for really poor behavior, including one of our own players here in the state of Arizona. It's important that we start to understand the dimensions of this problem in our community. And number one, believe survivors. I think that's incredibly important for us to do, and something that we miss the point on a regular basis. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and read this proclamation and then ask you guys to make some comments. And we have some great artwork out there in the lobby, and we're going to hear a little more about that in a minute after I get through doing my thing here, reading this proclamation. Does that sound good, Ed? Good. Whereas domestic violence occurs in epidemic proportions across the United States, affecting an estimated 6.2 million people per year. And whereas the Pima County Sheriff's Department and the Tucson Police Department responded to more than 12,500 domestic violence calls in the last year. And whereas domestic abusiveness causes untold trauma to children and adults in our community and harms families physically, emotionally, economically, and whereas October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month across the United States is signified by the wearing of the color purple to remind people that we must halt this dangerous and deadly scourge. And whereas Emerge Center Against Domestic Abuse, Pima County Attorney's Office, the City of Tucson, and other partners are committed to a comprehensive response to end domestic violence in our community. Now therefore be it resolved that the Pima County Board of Supervisors hereby proclaims Friday, October 17, 2014 to be Wear Purple Day in honor of the Paint Pima Purple campaign of Domestic Violence Awareness Month. That was hard to get out of my mouth in one breath there. And encourages all Pima County residents to wear an article of purple clothing or a purple ribbon or Wear Purple Day to raise awareness of domestic abuse, to stand in solidarity with domestic abuse victims, and to support the end of the scourge of domestic violence, passed and adopted this 14th day of October 2014. So nice round of applause.
Madam Chair, Board of Supervisors, Mr. Huckleberry, on behalf of Emerge Center Against Domestic Abuse and myself personally, I want to thank Pima County, the Board of Supervisors, the county staff, and the Pima County Attorney's Office for continued and ongoing leadership and support around the issue of domestic violence. And while it is important for us to celebrate Domestic Violence Awareness Month on a national level, it's also equally important to make sure that we have our own twist on it locally, which is our Paint Pima Purple campaign. And the county's willingness to help us promote Wear Purple Day is very important for the community to see. It's a fair question to ask, what's the importance of simply wearing a color and what that color purple might mean. But as we've seen with breast cancer awareness, the color can actually make a huge difference in raising awareness and visibility. And domestic violence happens to be an issue deeply rooted in silence and is often hidden. And the more that we can bring that to the forefront and visible, it's important not only to make sure that it comes out of the shadows, but that people who are victims and survivors can see that we are standing in solidarity with them, and that our community is a safe place for them to come forth, and as Supervisor Elias said, be believed. And that is the importance of this awareness effort. While ultimately we need more than symbolism, we need action from our community. The awareness and initial visibility to it is the first step. And we thank very much the county and the Board of Supervisors for being willing to help the county community as a whole take that first step. And I want to thank Vice Chair Elias in particular for being a very long-time friend of this issue and helping us to facilitate having the exhibit that is out in the lobby here, which Charlene will now tell you a little bit about.
I have an example. So there is an art exhibit out in the lobby, and the Child and Family Program at Emerge put this art exhibit together. Kids come to us with all kinds of overwhelming feelings of anger, fear, mistrust, confusion, and oftentimes grief. We wanted to give them a vessel, a way to share their feelings and to process and be able to heal their wounds. It was a very humbling process for us to be witness to just seeing these children get their feelings out through art. And they also wrote stories of their lives. The exhibit is called Take a Walk in My Shoes. And let me go ahead and read this and it'll explain exactly what the exhibit is about. So with this shoe, the child is 10 years old. What he wrote is, "This shoe represents my life. It represents my life because nobody has been in my shoes before, and it's real horrible to be in my shoes. My dad was a really bad dad. He used to abuse my mom. He used to sell our food stamps for drugs. The red on my shoes is for bad and the blue is for goodness. And the yellow is for bad and good. It represents the things that have been in my life until I came to shelter. My dad always wanted to kill my mom. He had a loaded gun on my brother's birthday, which was really scary. I couldn't tell my mom because he said he would kill her if I did. That's why I want to let everyone know that it's wrong to be in a situation like mine. For kids who have had these problems, it's really scary because you never feel safe. For people that are seeing my shoe, I want them to be safe, and if they're not, to come to shelter and find a way to be safe." And so just the powerful images, I guess, that this conjures, and the shoes and the children being able to get these feelings out where, you know, as Ed said, you know, domestic violence thrives in silence. And so we'd like to make a challenge to everyone here to take a walk in their shoes, you know, be a friend to a child. If a child has one safe person in their life that they can talk to, they will do so much better as they grow up. Thank you.
All right, we do have one executive session item on the agenda. I'd entertain a motion to move into exec. Motion and a sec to move into exec. If there are no objections, we'll convene in executive session and reconvene in regular session at the site of the gavel.
Good morning. How are you? Done your homework? I'll bet you. Sorry. Once in a while. I might have some time, but I could use the day to come to my city. So I actually Oh, I get you. Well, I could have somebody, one of my volunteers, if you'll tell me where you're going, maybe I can get somebody to be here. I have your personality on radio yet? How are you, sir? What did you say? That's the difference. So his choice is going to be the $57,000 to $88,000 a year that he charges them, or 2 police officers. So they're going to have to cut 2 police officers unless they can get a grant. That's what proposition they do have a bunch of problems. Yeah. But this is a classic day of the life. If we pull this off, it just will be amazing if people actually do it. I hear that for seniors all. And I was telling her, as you know, it's my personal it's a shelter. So We did, we had one last night, I had a, yeah, oh yeah, I had a good flu out yesterday. Gonna discover this investigate those things, they'll start to attack. Because that's like any ring smoke and mirrors, and be distracted to the real. So, that's how they work. So you know, since high school, I'm sorry, I heard you. Over $100,000 for donating to the Pro Club. A bunch of people. According to Tim Steller, it's the who's who of Pima County. You're right, they had no one writing any negatives. That's the key. Oh, it's not great. Well, people are funny. Do you know where the old Arizona mortuary is on the corner of Stone University? I used to manage that for a number of years, and the parking lot across the street actually belongs to the corporation when I was running. But what they do is it's a free parking. So just park there and come up Stone and then just come up here. So, yes, I refuse to pay. You know, that's what people call it, the latte syndrome. You know, if you're a senior, that's your medication. If you have children, that's your children's lunch money. I mean, there's so many But I have a thought. Think about this. I'll ask you guys after the election. What we should do is we should use variable money. We should go to all the coffee shops, put in some kind of container, and those who can't afford it can donate a lot. The money they spend on a lot, they double the amount. And let's have it clean that instead of so those who are in position, that someone should pay for it. You know, I'm just thinking out loud. I mean, I was thinking about that yesterday. It's a perfect example. Let's have the community involved with the rest of the community. Those who want it, but my guess is that's right. My guess is to get right. Then it's correct. That's right. I don't think I would. I do. I have to read this over myself. I read that. You know, it's as far as I'm concerned, and I can't prove it. It's deliberate. They don't want you to do the time. So if you have to sit here for 2 hours,
I stay.
you're lucky you have a grass out. You're blessed. Most of the time, you gotta get into school. You gotta eat breakfast and get them out. In my household, I have my mom and so this money, I have everything's on. So then if this takes really long, just get it. But it is, that's my job. Bill Tiger.
We're going to reconvene now in regular session. All board members are present. We have one executive session item. Councilor.
Yes, Madam Chair, members of the board, that item is item 2 on the addendum agenda, and it involves Pima County versus Lamberto and Carol Hernandez. Pima County Superior Court case number C 2013-2298. In this case, the county filed an action to condemn a drainage easement as part of the Valencia Road, Wade Road to Mark Road project. Before the condemnation was filed, the county appraised the easement at $12,897. Under the terms of a tentative settlement, the county would pay to the defendants a total of $16,400 in just compensation and interest for the easement. County Administrator and County Attorney's Office recommend approval of the proposed settlement.
What's the pleasure of the board?
Madam Chair,
Supervisor Elias.
I'll move the county attorney's recommendation.
Motion and a second to approve the county attorney's recommendation. Any objections? Hearing none, motion carries. We now move on to Board of Supervisors sitting as other boards. Flood Control District Board, item 7. Motion and a second to approve item 7 on the under flood control grant of water easement. Are there objections? Hearing none, motion carries. Moving on to board sitting as the Board of Supervisors. Consent calendar, call to the public. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to address us on any item on the consent calendar? If not, what's the pleasure of the board?
I'll move approval.
Motion and a second to approve consent in its entirety. Objections? Hearing none, motion carries. Moving on to item 10, Industrial Development Authority, and Resolution 2014-04, and item 11, under Industrial Development Authority, and Resolution 2014-105. What's the pleasure of the board?
Madam Chair,
Supervisor Elias.
I'll move items 10 and 11, including resolutions 2014-104 and resolution 2014-105.
Second. Motion and a second to approve items 10 and 11 and resolutions 2014-104 and 105. Objections? Hearing none, motion carries. Moving on to hearings. Franchise license and permit is fireworks permit for item 12. This is a hearing. Does anyone wishes to address us on this item? If not, what's the pleasure of the board?
Madam Chair, seeing no one come forward to address the board during this public hearing, I move that we close the public hearing and approve item 12, fireworks permit for Skyline Country Club, October 18, 2014 at 9 p.m.
Second. Motion and a second to approve the fireworks permit, item 12. Objections? Hearing none, motion carries. Moving on to development services, item 13. It's a comprehensive plan amendment and rezoning, CO7-14-07. Staff report.
Madam Chair, members of the board, before you is a request for both a concurrent plan amendment and rezoning to amend the Pima County Comprehensive Plan for resource transition to low-intensity urban 1.2 and to rezone property from SR Suburban Ranch to CR1 on approximately 0.92 acres on land that was previously graded and which once housed a Tucson water storage tank. The property is at the north end of Houghton Road, just north of Snyder. To date, staff has received no public comment. The Planning and Zoning Commission has recommended approval with standard and special conditions. Staff is also recommending approval with standard and special conditions. The property is located outside the Naveen Marie B. Hand Conservation Land System. However, a small portion of it is within. They will meet the open space objectives. Addition to the property is located within the buffer overlay zone. It also will meet the open space objectives by providing 50% open space over the entire site. Staff does request that the board make 2 separate motions on this, as there is both the plan amendment and the rezoning. And that concludes staff's report.
Madam Chair,
Supervisor Miller.
I move the first.
Well, this is a hearing. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to address us on this item in opposition? Supervisor Miller.
I move to close the public hearing, and I move that we approve comprehensive plan amendment C0714-07, C09-14-08 for the comprehensive plan amendment.
Well, I think you need to separate them, is that correct?
Yes, that's what I'm just made the motion for the comp plan amendment only.
That's the CO7 one, is it the CO9, the rezoning?
Madam Chair, that's correct. The CO7 is a plan amendment.
Okay, my mistake. I move we close the public hearing and approve the comp plan amendment CO7-14-07.
With standard and special conditions?
Correct, with standard and special conditions as recommended by staff.
Is there a second? Motion and a second to approve CO7 14-07, the standard and special conditions. Any objections? Hearing none, motion carries. Supervisor Miller.
Madam Chair, I move we approve item CO9-14-18, the rezoning from SR to CR1 with standard and special conditions as presented by staff. We'll close the public hearing.
Is there a second? Motion and a second to approve CO9-14-08, close public hearing with standard and special conditions. Any objections? Hearing none, motion carries. Moving on to item 14, rezoning resolution. This is a hearing. Does anyone wishes to address us on this item at this time? If not, what's the pleasure of the board on item 14 and resolution number 2014-106?
Madam Chair,
Supervisor Miller.
I move to close the public hearing and approve resolution number 2014-106, CO9-07-29.
Is there a second? I'll second. Any objections? Hearing none, motion carries. Moving on to transportation, item 15, the traffic ordinance. Again, this is ordinance 2014-44. Does anybody wish to address the board at this time on this item? If not, what's the pleasure of the board?
Madam Chair.
Supervisor Carroll.
Madam Chair, I'd like to go ahead and move item 15, traffic ordinance number 2014-44 for approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second to approve. Objections? And close public hearing. There are no objections. Motion carries. Moving on then to the addendum agenda, item 3, Flood Control Board of Supervisors sitting as other boards, the Flood Control District Board, item 3, Tucson Audubon Society in-route fee program. What's the pleasure of the board?
Move approval. Second.
Motion and a second.
Madam Chair,
Supervisor Miller.
I had a question on this item. This was roughly $84,000, and we had no contract for this item. I'm just wondering why it was $87,405, and we didn't have a contract for this item. I wonder why we didn't have a contract for this item and what the explanation is if we didn't.
Mr. Huckleberry.
Yes, Madam Chair and Supervisor Miller, in this particular case, the Tucson Audubon Society was the only entity that was involved in an in-lieu fee program, and so they were considered a sole source vendor, sole source contractor to determine if there were other viable in-lieu fee program sites that could be developed in Pima County, and this is to reimburse them for their work with the Flood Control District in establishing and reviewing those various sites. So the reason for no contract is they're the only entity who had been approved by the Corps for in-lieu fee programs.
And that's the Corps of Engineers.
The Corps of Engineers, but do we have an established fee structure with them?
The fees are basically those that are agreed to between the Flood Control District Director and the Audubon Director with regard to the reimbursement of their staff costs.
Were they approved, were those fees approved prior to them doing the work? I mean, my understanding is that they came in and they billed us for it, and now we're authorizing payment after the fact. without any negotiated fees in place prior to them doing the work.
The fees that were approved and agreed upon by the flood control district are customary and usage fees associated with the type of biological services that were provided.
Is that in the riparian habitat? Do they have the in lieu fee structure? Is that where that's coming from?
The in lieu fee structure is a subcomponent of Section 404 of the Clean Water Act, which is a federal program. The riparian habitat protection is embedded in our county code and is different from that program.
Okay, so this is from the federal program.
This is, yes, the Section 404 Clean Water Act implementation into a fee program.
Thank you.
Corps of Engineers.
Okay, there's a motion and a second on the floor. Any more further discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, motion carries. We now are back to the Board of Supervisors sitting as the Board of Supervisors. Item 4.
Move approval?
Second.
Motion and a second to approve item 4. Any discussion?
Madam Chair, I just wanted to, make sure that these, is this going to be distributed today?
I have 3 copies. Whoever wants
So
it.
the answer is yes.
Yes, okay. And, all right, and I did know that there were a lot of people who wish to speak on this item.
This is not a hearing, so we will not have speakers. There's a motion and a second on the floor. Roll call vote, please.
Supervisor Carroll. Supervisor Edith.
Aye.
Supervisor Miller.
Aye.
Supervisor Valdez.
Aye.
Chair Bronson.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Moving on to item 5. What's the pleasure of the board?
Move approval?
Motion and a second to approve. Any objections?
Madam Chair, I had some questions on this one. This item has been a question that I've had for some time. Is the reimbursement going to be per the IRS standard? Because I had asked Mr. Straub some questions on this, just to make sure that I understand legally that I can use my vehicle in place of the county vehicle and get reimbursed for county mileage. Do I have to keep a log? Is that the requirement? Keep a log of my mileage and then submit it for reimbursement?
Yeah, Madam Chair.
Chairman. We'll be over.
That's,
It's not
Madam Chair,
counted.
it's not for us, it's the finance department with respect to that. Yeah, the travel policy that's included in the material provides for a method of reimbursement. As to the question of whether you get the current federal rate or the amount that's set forth in the policy, if that's what the question is. I need some more time to take a look at that, but essentially, unless Mr. Huckleberry has an answer.
I think it is the IRS rate, is what was in there.
Yes, Madam Chair and Supervisor Miller, the current policy with regard to the reimbursement of employees who use their own personal vehicle for business is established in our policy. And our policy, at least at this time, now parallels the IRS reimbursement rate on a per mileage basis. It in the past has not always done that. So there's no guarantee. It's really what's set by the board typically. If we change that, obviously, we would come back to the board to change that rate.
Okay. Thank you. I move approval.
I think there was a motion and a second.
Okay.
Are there any objections? Hearing none, motion carries unanimously. Moving on to item 6, award of contract, HP Services. What's the pleasure of the board?
Madam Chair.
Supervisor Valdez and Supervisor Elias.
Go ahead, Supervisor. Couple things here. I think this is a substantial step forward in the program that we've outlined both in our IT department and policy changes, as well as the direction this board has given since the discussions on the budget earlier this year. I think it's important to reiterate to all county entities, elected included, that it is the prerogative of this board to move forward, and that this lease program is all inclusive to all entities of Pima County. With that in mind, I think that we need to direct staff to frankly prepare a report to this board, timeline end of November, for the purposes of reporting to this board what the status is of all county entities' compliance with policies set forth during the budget negotiations and discussions of this board.
Supervisor Elias, no, I echo your comments. I agree with your strategy, and Supervisor Elias, you have some thoughts.
Well, I wonder what's the value of all the equipment that we're getting rid of and giving away?
Madam Chair, Supervisor Elias, the equipment is essentially useless. It doesn't have much value to us.
It doesn't have much value. So how many computers do you think there are in this that we're going to get rid of?
Every year we're going to, as we...
No, right now.
Well, no, I think it's yearly, and I think you probably want that information, but so how many this year?
Right, okay, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, Mr. Rodriguez. Go ahead, please.
We're looking at approximately, if it's a one-to-one, which it won't be, it'll be around 2,600 computers, a maximum of 2,600 computers. Not all of those computers will, however, be turned in because some of them still are new enough that we will be able to place them within the county as we transition over to the new lease. But that is on the PCs. On the servers do not have any value. They're really, this is equipment that is very, very old, and we're just simply in the process of replacing it.
Madam Chair,
Supervisor Miller.
so if I'm understanding you correctly, you're replacing equipment, computers as they become obsolete. Is that correct? Or?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Supervisor Elias, the computers, not the servers, but rather the computers that we are declaring obsolete, is there a disposal process with them? I know we have in the past tried to recycle them. Are we going to continue that policy or not?
Madam Chair, that is correct. The board did approve the disposal of the equipment to be donated to Project Rise. So what the process that we will take on giving these equipment away, we will move the equipment over to Project Rise, where we will do a Department of Defense wipe on the drives so that no county information is made available to anybody, at which point they will take it, they will re-image those computers, and then it is their intent to distribute those to educational related institutions, charities, and I believe also religious charities.
Thank you. Mr. Huckleberry, you have comments?
Madam Chair and members of the board, I think the discussion is on computers and individual computers, and we have handled that previously, and we're under kind of this 3-year program to replace them. And I think we previously talked about the multiple platforms that are out there in the county, from computers that probably range from 5 to 10 years of age, and so we've standardized that. This is the next step in the process, which is all the servers and data storage. And I think I've stressed to the board the fastest growing expense we have in our computer systems is data storage. And so this kind of keeps us on this step of modernizing our systems to hopefully stay ahead of the game.
And with the new system in place, the new paradigm, we will be upgrading on a regular basis, and not, so we're essentially expensing this, and we're going to reduce some of our own internal costs as a result. Is that?
Madam Chair, that is absolutely correct. The servers, the package that you're approving has for the servers, they will be replaced every 3 years. That is the most cost-effective time frame for the county. For the storage, that will be replaced every 5 years. Again, that is the most cost-effective strategy for the county. When we're done with the first iteration of this lease cycle, we are actually looking at a minimum savings of about $10 million a year, as opposed to having acquired the equipment outright.
Thank you. Any further questions of the board? I don't think we had a motion on the floor.
Move approval and
You
with a
had a
special note on the
direction.
staff direction.
I'll second. There's a motion and a second on the floor. Any objections? Hearing none, motion carries. I want to thank Mr. Rodriguez for putting this packet together. I think it is the way to move forward, as Mr. Huckleberry indicated. It was an issue for me, the expense we were looking at with IT, and with the rapid evolution of the industry, computers become obsolete, devices become obsolete within 2 to 3 years for sure. So thank you for your work. All right, moving on to item 7. This is grant application and acceptance, items 7, 8, and 9.
Move approval.
Motion and a second to approve items 7, 8, and 9. Any objections? Hearing none, motion carries. Moving on to boards, commissions, and committees, item 10. I'll move the item.
Second.
Motion and a second. Objections? Hearing none, motion carries. And now we come to call to the audience. Mary Murphy.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, board. Mary Murphy, Green Valley. I was trying to slip a couple of things in there past you. I know I can get anything past you.
You were going to tell us about your corporation, right?
I'm a corporation. My homeowners association is a corporation. I am a corporate member. And given that my family members started the homeowners association and it was built on family values, I will continue to hawk that. And by the way, I had an eye-to-eye with a hawk in my backyard. And I'm feeding a local squirrel. And squirrely is the only adjective that has not been used to describe me. So feel free. Sarita Fest was fun. I talked to the representatives from Hud Bay about the Rosemont mine. I said union a couple times and I beat it out of there. I learned that from Grandpa Johnny. Anyways, it's still a horror story in my neighborhood. I'm leaving some paper with you. I'm new to the internet. And they have these fabulous websites. I have the Green Valley Fairways Property Owners Association website. You're going to want to buy a home in my neighborhood, let me tell you, and they are going cheap. It is a ghetto. What does it do for me? Well, one thing it does is belong to the Green Valley Council. And the expenditures of District 4 office in Green Valley should include at least one copy of the CMG Drainageway Engineering Inspection. I do want to see that. How can I redress grievances if I do not see the documents? Anyways, website page. And the ongoing vandalism that was done to my home, thought I'd call a copy in there. Oh, and then I pulled out of the archives of the library named after the supervisor of District 4, Ed Joyner. His picture's hanging near the men's room. I went into the locked archives and took out the picture of my Aunt Marge Margarita, front and center at Catholic Mass at the Villas. She is archival, my family is as well. She is front and center in the white mantilla. Aunt Fran and Uncle Bill are behind her. This is before the Catholic Church was built. She has ashes on her forehead. The others don't, so this might be her second go-round at Mass that morning, so I don't know. That's Father Twinkenhammer. You'll notice the 3-pole lamp, I have one in storage. It was after the blessing of the tropical storms that we had recently. While some people griped about the rain, other people cried about the deaths. It was the last storm, Simon, that brought to me an epiphany moment. I want you to know that my family came here. And it was on the heels of those Sisters of St. Joseph who were on the bay, and it was the cloud formations. And here are the copies of her favorite hymn, How Great Thou Art, and thank you, Father, for your invocation.
Thank you, Ms. Murphy. Victoria Davis.
name is Victoria Davis, Madam Chair and members of the board. I again highly recommend that the call to the public come close to the beginning of the meeting before the executive session instead of clear at the end. That way you would encourage more involvement from Pima County residents and be more respectful of them. Again, thank you for providing this forum so that we can try to bring your attention to our concerns. But I want you to be aware that it costs the taxpayer 1 to 3 meals to pay for the parking that we have to have this privilege. I urge the board to vote to release the county attorney's opinion to the public in regards to your using your office budget funds to donate to various charities and outside organizations. Whether or not we find out if this was legal or illegal, it has the smell of corruption. You should have to return the funds you have donated over the years, or at least pay a hefty fine for so blatantly misusing our money for your own purposes. In any case, I urge you to vote to stop this practice immediately. Don't hem and haw and justify yourselves and point fingers and blame those wascally Republicans or authorize a full investigation to report back to you. Just stop the practice immediately, cease and desist. In my statement to you last Tuesday, I said that you are out of touch with reality and you are tone deaf to how much your policies have hurt and continue to hurt the poor and middle class and businesses in Pima County. So please remove the shadow of corruption that hangs over you as we find out more about this shady use of taxpayer money, and stop the practice with no equivocation. Make it clear and transparent. Thank you.
My name's, good morning. Madam Chairman of the Board of Supervisors, my name is Jerry Altaboni and I live in Oro Valley. And I have planned to speak the same about the opinions of the County Barbara Lawal Supervisor, but apparently you all voted yes on it, so therefore that tells me that you want to be somewhat open and above board. So instead, I've decided to discuss the possibility of, we know that 90% of the tent is pit bulls, adult, and 80% of the tent, or the facility, is pit bulls. Now, if those people who have pit bulls would go and love pit bulls and do the same thing they do down in Green Valley, then we would have a situation that would be self-funding. There's ways to self-fund, and since those people who spent so much money for Pro 415 could certainly use the money, and I'm sure they can get other money to keep a pit bull facility. So if we didn't have pit bulls in Pima County, then the facility, then it would not be necessary for a $22 million facility, which, like this lady here, and we seniors, is affecting us financially. It's not a latte, because my taxes just went up just last month, and that was before I got my new tax bill. So therefore, and I also understand that we could redo a whole new bill and make it a $5 to $9 million pet facility, a very nice ones for the ones that don't have to have all those pit bulls in there. I have pit bulls, so I know all about pit bulls. So don't say that they can be sweet and cuddly, but they can also turn because they have to protect their pet. So that's why they attack the fragile and children. Anyway, the gentleman who is the mayor down in South Tucson apparently is quite concerned because they might have to eliminate some police gentlemen from their from the city government. So therefore, that would be a real problem for them. Perhaps they should have their own facility. And thank you and have a nice day.
Thank you. Richard Hernandez?
Good morning, everyone. I'm Richard Hernandez, but I have a feeling that some of you probably already know that. For the record, I live in the city of Tucson in Pima County. I also had to change my recommendations thanks to Sharon Bronson's decision not to let us visit on number 4 today. But that's okay, because you're actually helping me. Now I can have a little bit more broad information to share with you. First of all, I'd like to see that decision now that it's available. And I want to comment, as I did last time I visited with you, the use of one nickel that belongs to us without you telling us publicly is illegal, unethical. I suggested to you last time that you should take the moral high road. I think I also shared a lesson with you about how we proud Hispanics were taught by our parents not to take anything that didn't belong to us. But there's some concerns I want to address. First of all, there's a saying in Spanish que, for those of you who don't know, it's called como es el dicho. It's a saying. Well, let me share with you, and I'm standing in front of you, I'm talking to the public and those of you listening on TV. The reality is, if you say something long enough, even if it's a lie, you start to believe it. That's the dicho. So this board, what, $1 billion in debt? It's okay. You don't mind they raise your taxes, right? Those of you who spoke earlier. This board giving money to their favorite charities without checking with us? That's okay, right? It's been done so long, it's just, we believe it to be true anymore, right? It's interesting. I have to tell you, Richard, I saw you on TV the other day. I'm learning from you. Wow. To accuse Supervisor Ali of trying to destroy the board, I'll step up to that. I want to destroy corruption. I want to destroy favoritism. I want to destroy people giving money wrongfully. I want to destroy a county attorney who behaves like a defense attorney. We empower him to make sure the laws are covered, but instead he chooses to protect you, even if it's in violation of the law. Como es el dicho? What is the saying? So I'm reaching out to the public, and again, I am standing in front of them, but I'm talking to you behind me, the most important people. And that would be, I'm going to suggest to you what our new saying is. Maybe we should say this often enough that people will start to believe it. You're out of here. You're out of here. You're out of here. You're out of here. Enough of abuses of the people.
My name is Robert Harris, resident of Pima County, Chair Lady Bronson, supervisors. Mr. Huckleberry stepped out for a second. I would like to talk a little bit about expenditures and what have you. It's almost the Wizard of Oz time when you pay no attention to the person behind the curtain. I'm sorry, I pause sometimes because I'm getting worse. You asked Chairperson Miller, Supervisor Miller, you asked that the board approve an audit of expenses. Then you voted against it. Was it just to cause trouble that you brought it up? And now that they were going to give you an audit of the expenses, and you voted no. I sat home and watched it. There are laws, rules, regulations that are pertaining to elections, and you're trying to influence elections, and you're utilizing state, county resources to do it. You're taking in-kind contributions from radio stations in this town that twist the truth. You and J.T. Harris are a team that is beyond belief. You go on the radio, you're taking free time from Harris, you give your opinions of what's going on, and you let nobody contest what you say. Title 16, 192, use of state resources, special district applies to you. 16.917, in-kind donations applies to you. Before you point fingers at other people, unless you have ulterior motives, you really ought to clean up your own expenses. You're voting here to buy millions of dollars worth of computer systems, and your website that you tout is paid for with county funds, and you won't even use the county website. Is that yes? You're shaking your head yes. So you're spending that money that you're pushing up on the entire board, and you're spending the money like that. Now, if, I will start running through the audit of yours, but your expenses of your office are mid-range in a board of supervisors. You're not the lowest, you're not the highest. I'm sorry, I'm done.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. Ms. Almquist?
Good morning, everybody. I'm Kristen Almquist, a resident of Pima County, a resident of the city of Tucson, and thank you for letting us have the call to the audience. I'm here today to thank the Board of Supervisors for allowing Prop 4015 to be on the ballot this year. I think it's important for our community to demonstrate that we support our animals and we support our neighborhoods. And I personally am voting yes, but I just want to make sure that you all know we appreciate your giving the voters a chance to say yes for this, because it is an important time for all of us. In addition to the animals, it's our neighborhoods, it's our community, it's our public health that are all going to benefit from it. Thank you again for allowing us to be part of this.
Thank you. If there's no further speakers, this meeting stands
Excuse
adjourned.
me, I'm speaking.
The meeting is adjourned.
Hey, sit down and let us
For,
speak.
and then you would not allow
We
them to
just
speak to
adjourned.
item
We
4.
just adjourned.
I spoke before the gavel happened. Let us speak.
That is outrageous.
Corruption.
Absolutely.
Corruption. Corruption.
Give the
Point
hundreds
of
of
order, Madam
thousands
Chair.
of
These people came down to
This
speak.
meeting is adjourned.
These people came to speak on this item, and you purposely would not allow them to speak on item 4, and you should allow them to speak in the open call. This is wrong. This is because you don't want to hear what these people have to say. They took their time and their effort to come down here. This is outrageous. Point of order, Mr. Stroud. Shouldn't people be allowed to speak when they come down here?
It's only 10 o'clock.
Madam Chair,
Yeah.
members of the board, we have called to the public, we have a protocol for that, it's up to the parliamentarian, who's the chair, to determine whether that's
And all of
compliant
these
or not.
people put in a speaker card and were denied the opportunity
Shame
to
on you,
speak.
Mr. Stroud.
Shame.
As a public employee, Chuck Huckleberry, who calls the shots, stand up and say something. What's wrong with
outrageous.
you people? And Mr. Elias, that you give out our public money, shame on you.
Give the hundreds of
Sharon
thousands of
Bronson, you
dollars back. Man, wait. Give the money
Bully,
back.
bully.
Give the taxpayers money
That's
back to the taxpayers.
Huckleberry, cheater. Cheater.
We stood up before the gavel went. He said, is there any other speakers? And bam, that is not fair. You gave us no chance to respond.
They didn't understand. Who is Mr. Harris anyway?
Thank you.
Where did he come from?
Thank you for letting us know what's happening.
Yeah.
You're the only one that gets.
And they try to free her daily. You can see how they bully her.
I see that.
I come every week now because it's unbelievable what they do. Constantly. Constantly. And this guy is a county attorney over here. He never. All of us does it for you. And he gives everything. Right here. This is all right here.
Shame. I filled out sorry. Well, I'm sorry.
Sheriff will say, is there anyone else who wishes to speak? I'll picture that on the page.
Yeah, you filled out a card. Say.
Not that I'm not advertising.
No,